always makes me do these things, and I'm like, oh.
I don't.
In the middle of Christmas, when you want to relax and not do anything.
She said to me, Luke, how can I preach next? What can I preach on next? I said, Leah, you've already had enough for you. She said, no, I want to preach more. I said, well, a man under authority. Oh, I didn't. Jared, on my chair was a little man. That's the one, yeah. Can I have you? Let's welcome Jared to the stage! Okay, so we want to talk to you. That's gone really quiet. Are you all okay? Are you all like partied out? You're thinking, I need a holiday to get over the holidays. Alright, so we're going to talk to you. The message is called Keep the Receipt. And I would imagine for most people, pretty much every year, you get a gift that you didn't want. Anyone know what I'm talking about? No? Who this year got a gift that they didn't want? Janine, you were right up there. You definitely didn't want this gift. Okay. Anyone actually want to share what the gift was?
Ooh. Risky.
Mary, Andy, have you got a microphone? Can you just tell it to Mary? Come on, Mary.
Well, I had several presents from this person, but one of them just happened to be a box of biscuits.
A box of biscuits. I like biscuits. That's a good gift.
I'll give you.
I'll take that. Okay. Anyone else? Janine.
He's scared. I got off my mother-in-law, who is amazing. Phew! She bought me some handmade jewellery by this lady who lives in Ireland. It was absolutely beautiful. It was all like inscripted and everything, and it's like a long necklace with a big love heart on. It's lovely, but it's just not me. And I looked at it and thought, oh, thanks, I'll never wear that. So I gave it my friend yesterday.
Anyone else? Oh, come on, Elaine. Oh, Elaine's a card for you at the back, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Everybody in my family and circle of friends seem to think I like shortbread biscuits. I've had 4 tins of shortbread. I love shortbread for me.
It's a food bag short.
Food bank is going to do very well out of me this year.
Andy likes shortbread. He said we could auction it off.
Building fund.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll just... Oh, have you got one? Go on then.
Okay. Jocelyn, tell me later.
Yeah, tell us later. Okay, who here has had, not just this year, but who's ever had like a really ridiculous present that you just think, why on earth did I get that present? Jared. He's from Kezia. Okay, that's safe. You got what? Oh, what she got? Yeah, we got Kezia some pop noodles this year for Christmas. I forgot about that. She really likes pop noodles, to be fair.
Poor kids.
Anyone ever had like a ridiculous present? Yes. I see that hand. Can't hear you. Half use microphone, can't hear you.
You know, I'm only meant to be doing half a shift today. I'm meant to be done by now.
So one year, my auntie got Ed a really gorgeous bottle of port. I got a really ugly hat. My auntie.
You should swap. Make Ed wear the hat. Sponsorship. Make Ed wear the hat. It's gone all right. Anyone else had a really awful present?
Yes,
Salome.
I had a lovely present this year, with a silver present, which is a brooch with a sign of friends on, which means it's friends for life and forever.
Friends?
Yeah.
Or France?
Friends.
I thought
Friends.
Okay, that makes more sense. Anyone else? No. When I was a kid, I used to get like woolly jumpers. I think they're off. Are they off Auntie Betty? Nanan? Off Nanan? Oh, it's going to touch a nerve, sorry. Dad's mum. Oh, man. It's backfired. Well, they used to make me itch, like really bad. And I even now, like right now wearing this, like I feel like I'm claustrophobic. So ever since wearing them jumpers, I've not wanted to wear long sleeves my entire life because of the jumpers. I used to hate wearing them jumpers. Lovely thought, Dad. Lovely thought. But I hated them. Absolutely hated them. And the thing is, I couldn't take them back because they were like handmade, I think. There were no receipt involved. And I was about 7, so I wouldn't have known how to anyway. But there we go. Leah bought me, well, she didn't buy me. She chose some jeans for me recently when we were out, and they looked kind of funky jeans, and they had all these like rips in them.
I wanted to look cool.
Yeah.
It didn't take it very long.
Anyway, I didn't try them on. I looked at the size, thought, yeah, it's the right size. I'll try them when I get home. I tried them on. They were skinny jeans.
Yeah.
Now, I don't do skinny jeans because if I wear skinny jeans, I look like an ostrich. So I was like, I've got to take these back. So I had to take them back and get some of the jeans instead. So yeah, but you know, when you've got the receipt, right, you can take things back, right, obviously. And the whole purpose of this message is that the devil gives us gifts. He gives us gifts that we don't want, really. Gifts that we don't need. And yet, Jesus, when he died on the cross, he gave us a bunch of receipts. We can take back the devil's gift and exchange it for a gift from God. And so we think this year could be the best year for you if we learn to use those receipts. So we've got a few receipts for you. We've got 4 receipts for you this morning. The first one is take back loneliness for relationship. When we were in Zambia, when I went out last, when we stayed in this place, you probably all of you have had ants in your garden at some point, won't you? I would imagine, like a load of ants, and you sprinkle a little powder down and they die. Well, you haven't seen ants until you've been to Zambia or other places in Africa, because the ants over there mean business. We were out on this like safari type place, and there was all these ants covering the path. I was like, oh, it's ants, big deal. I was walking along the path until they started burrowing through my shoes and my socks, trying to get at my skin. And afterwards, like for an hour or two afterwards, I was still finding them, like in socks and stuff, and pulling them out. And when you pull them out, the body comes off, the head stays in. It's awful. There's little pincers trying to get you. And so, anyway, there were these ants in Zambia on this wall where we were staying, off our block where we were staying in. Probably the same place that Jean and Annie stayed last time when they went. And these ants were going up the wall in a line. And I was looking at these ants thinking, well, isn't it amazing? And you read about ants, don't you? And you read about how they all work together and they're walking up in this big aisle. But there was this one ant, and he'd somehow managed to go around the corner of the wall. And he had absolutely no idea where the other ants were. And he was literally going round and round and round in circles. Just going round and literally just about 10 centimetres, but around a bend. All these ant mates were walking up and down this wall, collecting stuff. And he was just there going round and round and round, all on his own. And I think at some point in all of our lives, we've all experienced loneliness in some way. In fact, they say, don't they, that you can be in a big crowd of people and still feel alone. But the receipt is this. The Bible says in Psalm 68 verse 6 that God sets the lonely in families. So you've all been set into a family, into your natural family, but in your family here as a church as well. And that's great, isn't it? And it's not that you were maybe think, well, I don't feel lonely right now. But actually, without this family, we are all alone. Outside of God's family, we're separated from him. Like that ant, we're kind of like separate, and we're just wandering around and around and around. And actually, it just takes that little bit of a look around the corner to see what we could have. But without it, we're just there wandering around and around and around. So God has set you in a family. You're here for a reason. Acts 2 verse 42 says that all the believers were together and had everything in common. It's not that we have everything in common. There are things that you like that I don't like. You might really, really like woolly jumpers or innate jewellery or whatever it may be. We don't have those things in common. But the thing that we do have in common is our faith in Jesus. The thing we do have in common is our love of God. The things that matter are important, and they're what's common to us, God, and the fact that we have a purpose. Those ants that are walking that line, they all had a job to do. They all had a purpose, they all had a mission. They're gathering food and bringing it back to the ants, what do they call them? Colony. To the ant house. And they had a mission. And by connecting and being set into a family, you have connection with other people because we have common ground in God. And you also have a mission, a purpose in your life. Hebrews 10 verse 24-25 says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." So I believe this year will be a whole lot better for you if you stop believing that no one wants you and you started throwing yourself into church. Maybe you come to church 2 weeks out of 4. This year, why don't you make it 3 or 4 weeks out of 4? Maybe this year, maybe this year's the year for you to get knitted into a life group and to attend it every single week. Those things are important, and in doing so, we build family together. So, take back loneliness and exchange it for relationship. Off you go.
When we first planned this, we were given 3 minutes each. That was way longer than 3 minutes. Just rein it in. Because I will definitely stick to my 3 minutes. That's why I was... Right.
You can round it down to 2.5 minutes.
All right. The second receipt to take back is the receipt of sorrow for praise. Psalm 34:1. "I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth." We all go through those times of sorrow, don't we? And it's not nice to talk about, but it's important to bring that into life. And how do we deal with that? And we do need to exchange the sorrow for praise. I remember, it must have been about 7 years ago or so, when my mum phoned me to tell me that my grandma had passed away. And I remember sitting on my bed and thinking, I know she's getting on, and I know she was ill health, but nothing prepares you for that moment, does it? For that news, that awful, dreaded news that you don't want to hear. And I remember sitting on my bed thinking, oh, if only I had more time with her, if only I could have phoned her regularly, if only, right? But in that moment, you know, I had to decide to exchange the sorrow for praise. We all face circumstances, don't we, that's out of our control. I think of Paul and Silas, who were stuck in the prison cell. They were imprisoned, they were beaten, they were in agony with their bodies so beaten up. And yet, in that circumstance that was out of their control, they started to sing praise to God. They started to thank God. They started to pray. And in that moment, they got freedom in the situation before they received freedom from the situation. In my moment of sadness, as you know as well, we all go through those times, those things that are out of our control. I chose to praise God, exchanging my sorrow for thankfulness for God. Sorrow for what was lost had been replaced with praise for what I had, and that's the promise of eternity, right? When we don't know what to do, we do what we only know how to do, and that is to praise him. That's to just look to him because he is our help. In that moment, we exchange the sorrow for praise. And so I want to encourage you, during those times, and we will have those times, and it's a horrible time to go through, but just keep looking to Jesus and acknowledge him and to exchange that sorrow for praise.
That were at least 5 minutes.
It weren't.
Moving on to stress. Exchanging stress for peace. This is how I imagine, how I can see things in my head, you know, when you think of stress, okay? This is how I feel. So remember Stretch Armstrong? There's like a mini version of, this is a gift. I don't know why he's naked, but this is a gift from Uncle John to Philippa to one of our lads for Christmas. So as you can see, he stretches. But it's how I feel like when I'm stressed. I feel like I'm being pulled this direction by one thing, being pulled this direction by another thing. Sometimes being pulled by both things at the same time, and you just feel stretched. You just feel strained. You just feel like you've just got no peace. Your mind is consumed by these things. It's like when I take my dog for a walk, when we first go out, he's excited. When we come back, he's absolutely fine. He's walking, the lead's nice and loose, and he's just trotting along because he knows he's going home. On the way out of the house, though, going to where I go to let him off the lead, he's pulling all the time. It's like he sees something. He was mental. He's walking along and he'll go, tree, 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 tree. There's a tree. Get you to the tree. And then a minute later he's going, dog, dog, dog. There's a dog. And he's like over there. And the next minute, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. You know, he's like all the time pulling this way, pulling that way, pulling that way. And that's what being stressed can feel like as well. You're being pulled in all different directions all the time. The carol service this year was a major stress for me. I was stressed already because of the wrongful fear of things going wrong, or I was stressed because I was worried that I wouldn't do my job very well. And actually, it turned out I had good reason to be stressed, because on the night, and I didn't tell this at the time because I didn't want to spoil the atmosphere, all my notes went. I lost it all just before the meeting started. I had no way of getting them back. I tried everything. All my notes were gone. And I'm like, I've got to speak. And it was only 20 minutes, but I've got to speak in front of all these people, and I've got no notes. I've got to do it by memory. I was absolutely bricking it. It's true. And it all worked out in the end, because God fills in your weakness, doesn't he? He becomes your strength. This is a bit in Matthew 11, verse 28 to 30. It says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So the first thing we do when we're stressed out is we go back to God. We give it to God. We say, God, I want you in this situation. So we go to God. But it goes on to say in verse 29, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. So we take his yoke onto us. And what it means is we have to let go of other people's yokes, or the yokes of other things. So for some people, that might be the fear of looking bad, or the fear of man, looking bad in front of other people. For me, on that carol service, that was definitely a part of it. I was stressed because I was worried about looking bad in front of other people. And you have to shed yourself of that and take on God's yoke for your life. It goes on to say, it says, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You know, when you take on God's yoke on your life and you live for what is important to him and you live for his will for your life, it's easy, it's light, it's like a little gentle nudge in the direction you need to go. And then when you step out in faith and walk in that direction, you get an overwhelming sense of peace that passes all understanding. And it's like God saying, I'm just letting you know you're doing the right thing. So, this year will be a whole lot better for you if you stop picking up other people's yokes and you just picked up God's yoke for your life. So take back stress and exchange it for peace.
Okay, so the fourth receipt to take back is to exchange guilt for grace. Guilt is one of those, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, isn't it? It's a good thing because it stops you from making the same mistake again. Or it can be a bad thing if it consumes you. You know, you go down a road that's, all you can feel is guilt, 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 and it robs you of moving forward into your future. And I do tend to do this a lot. I do tend to be in this guilt a lot. I don't know about you, but, you know, I feel guilty when I don't spend enough time with my kids. I feel guilty if I have not spent, phone my grandma and granddad. I felt guilty at that time. I feel guilty if I'm not reading with them, if I'm not doing the spellings with the kids, even if spending time for myself. I feel guilty about that. Anyone else there?
She feels guilty all the time.
I'm just so guilty.
Leah feels guilty spending our money.
Which
is a good trait for a wife to have, by the way.
I do feel guilty about that, yeah. Yeah, we shouldn't, we put on that guilt, don't we? But we're only guilty when we feel like that. We often tend to go and hide and cover up and deny, and a bit like what Adam and Eve did with the forbidden fruit. They went and hid away from God. They felt in their guilt. And not a single minute goes by, not a single day that goes by when we don't live a perfect life, right? We never do it. It's impossible. We're human. And it could be, you know, a sinful thought. It could be a revengeful thought. It could be not putting 100% into our work. It could be that you're losing patience with a toddler who's screaming. I don't know what it looks like for you. But we often struggle with that, don't we? When we feel guilty about doing those silly things. But it becomes... when it becomes so consumed, when we feel that's all we're living in this guilt, that's when we need to exchange the guilt for grace, right? God knows that we're so weak. He knows that we can't do it without him. So we need to make that exchange of guilt with grace. He understands in our weaknesses that we're enabled to live a life that's perfect. He knows that. But all we have to do is ask. Ask to live in his grace. Ask for his grace, and he will give it. It's all sufficient. That's all we ever need, right? We need to make the exchange of guilt for grace.
Okay, well, that's our 4 exchanges. But there are so many other things that God's given us the receipt for. Illness for healing, ashes for beauty, death for life. The truth is, we've got the receipt for all of them. So let's make 2020 a year of less distractions and more freedom. It could be our best year yet. And we believe it is going to be our best year yet.